Hey everybody, and welcome to History Recolored. Today we're going to take a little step back in time to the beginning of World War I and predominantly talk about the 6 causes that started World War I. All right. Now, to bring you up to speed, the First World War began in the summer of 1914, and that was very shortly after the assassination of Austria's Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And it lasted for more than 4 years, and World War I ended in 1918. Now, interesting, some facts. This war left more than 20 million soldiers dead and more than 21 million wounded. And that can all be attributed to trench warfare and the number of countries involved in the war. Now, 20 million soldiers dead, that's a lot of soldiers, all right? And even the wounded. So understanding the causes of World War I is equally as important as understanding the conflict's devastating effects, right? Though the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand was the direct precipitating event leading to the declaration of war, there were many other factors that also played a role in leading up to World War I. Most people call that WW1. Let's talk a little bit about European expansionism. In the 1900s, several European nations had empires across the globe, and they had lost control over vast pieces of land. Prior to World War I, the British and French empires were the world's most powerful colonizing regions like India, modern-day Vietnam, and Western North Africa. The expansion of European nations as empires, which at the time was also known as imperialism, can be seen as a key cause of World War I. Because as countries like Britain and France expanded their empires, it resulted in increased tensions among other European countries. The tensions were a result of many colonies often being acquired through coercion, like forced. And once a nation had been conquered, it was governed by the imperial nation, and many of these colonial nations were exploited by their mother countries. We also have Serbian nationalism. Now, nationalism was one of many political forces in play at the time which led up to World War I. Serbian nationalism really, in this conflict, played a key role. And that nationalism we can date to the mid to late 1800s, although there are 2 precipitating nationalism events directly linked to the start of World War I. In the Baltics, Slavic Serbs sought independence from Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire. And in 1878, they tried to gain control of Bosnia and Herzegovina to form a united Serbian state. With the decline of the Ottoman Empire, Serbian nationalism continued to rise, culminating in the assassination of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Austria in 1914 by a Bosnian Serb, and this was the official triggering start of World War I, was the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. So, a little about the assassination of Franz Ferdinand. On June 28, 1914, the Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria was assassinated by someone named Gavrilo Princip. I don't know if I have that right or not. Franz Ferdinand was chosen as a target because he was to be the heir of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. On the day of his assassination, the Archduke traveled to Sarajevo to inspect imperial armed forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina, former Ottoman territories acquired by Austria-Hungary in 1908. While Ferdinand was traveling in an open car in Sarajevo, Princip fired into the car, shooting Ferdinand and his wife Sophie. Following the assassination, Austria-Hungary issued an ultimatum to Serbia, which was rejected, and led Austria-Hungary to declare war against Serbia. With German support, Russia then came to Serbia's defense, therefore initiating the First World War. And that was how everything started, and that's how the ball got rolling. There were many conflicts over alliances, okay? Countries that paired up, wanted to be allies, friends, or foes. In the age of imperialism, prior to World War I, countries throughout Europe created alliances for friendships or partnerships. These alliances promised that each country would support the other if war ever broke out between an ally and another great power. Prior to World War I, the alliances of Russia and Serbia, France and Russia, Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary, Britain, France, and Belgium, France, Britain, and Russia, and Japan and Britain were all firmly in place. The alliance between France, Britain, and Russia, formed in 1907, was called the Triple Entente, and it caused the most friction among nations. Germany felt that this alliance surrounding them was a direct threat, okay? And it really fed into other countries declaring war against each other in the face of that conflict. These conflicts over alliances, which forced nations to come to the defense of one another, led to the formation of the two sides of World War I. And these two sides were the Allied and the Central Powers. By the start of the war, Italy and the United States entered on the side of the Allied powers, which consisted of Russia, France, and Great Britain. The Central Powers was made up primarily of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire and Bulgaria. That's the play. That's the playbook right there. All right, that's the sides. They're forming the sides now. Now, with this comes a blank check of assurance, and the conspirations, the conspired plans of Germany and Austria-Hungary. Now, the alliance of Germany and Austria-Hungary at the start of World War I is also commonly known as the blank check insurance. In July 1914, during a meeting between the members of the Austrian Foreign Ministry, the ambassador to Britain, and the German Emperor and the German Chancellor, Germany offered, there's the deal, offered Austria-Hungary unconditional support in the wake of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. This blank check, in other words, they could get whatever they wanted to help fight this battle. It sought military and political triumph in securing the Balkans. It also gave Austro-Hungarian leaders the confidence needed to embark on war against Serbia. Now, today, if you ask historians, they regard it as one of the most controversial decisions in the history of modern warfare. Now, modern warfare in 1914 is quite a bit different than modern warfare today. Right? Now, Germany, number one, is seen as responsible for the escalation and continuation of World War I. So they kind of stirred the pot, fueled the fire, if you will. Now, German millenarianism, also called the spirit of 1914, was a belief held by religious, political, or social groups or a movement that a coming major transformation will occur. And millenarianism, maybe that had to do with the turn of the century back then, going from the 1800s to the 1900s. Because remember, this is only 1914. It's the very beginning of the 20th century. The German government believed that the onset of war and its support of Austria-Hungary was a way to secure its place as a leading power. The success Germans saw in the opening battles of World War I provided them with a platform for the German government to position itself as being able to accomplish more when unified and nationalistic. However, this was very short-lived, as Germany was unprepared to fight the Long War, which took a dramatic and demoralizing toll on its people and later set the stage for the rise of the Third Reich, less than 2 decades later. Yeah, so we got World War I starting in 1914, and all this confusion and stuff going on in Germany behind the scenes. And all that work behind the scenes actually turned into, as we know, the precipitation of World War II just a couple of decades later with the rise of the Third Reich. Now, following those events, World War I moved into full force from 1914 through 1918, ending when peace was brokered between the German and Central Forces and the Allied powers. And it culminated with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, and that would be in France. The treaty forced punitive measures on Germany that further destabilized Europe and laid the groundwork, unusually enough, for the start of World War II. So by understanding the causes of World War I, we can develop a keen comprehension on how and why this devastating concept or conflict began, and how actually the conflict of World War I ramped itself up and eventually, a couple of decades later, culminated in the start of World War II, of which both wars we were involved in. So that's my take on the 6 causes of World War I. If you happen to find any value in that, if you could like and subscribe, please hit the bell. I appreciate you stopping by. I know your time is valuable, as mine is, but I want to thank you and hope you have a great day.